I have with me Duncan Amoah, who's the Executive Secretary of COPEC. Good morning, Duncan.
Dziffa, good morning.
I think you don't need an introduction anymore. You're like my co-host at this point. So
I still insist on an introduction, Dziffa. I still insist on an...
Okay,
because you
so
get it wrong. You got it wrong once.
Executive Secretary of COPEC. How are you?
Not bad at all, except that it could have been better.
How?
If you wake up and your fuel prices are getting adjusted here and there seems no end in sight as to when all of this would end, you should be worried as a Ghanaian, and that's why I'm worried. I know my senior lawyer here is equally worried.
Okay, speaking of your senior lawyer, we also have Martin Kpebu here, who is the Executive Director of the Human Rights and Governance Sector. Good morning. Should I call you Counsel or Martin?
Martin is fine.
Yeah.
But if you are Chief, cry.
Oh my God.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Thank you for being with us. Let's take a look at our first story from citynewsroom.com. It says here, police killings at Budumburam. Court remands 7 suspects. So I'm going to read briefly and then hear from our panelists here. The key suspect in the killing of some 2 police officers at Amoah, Budumburam, Eric Kojojua, and 6 other accomplices have been remanded into police custody. And so I'm going to read here. Well, they're supposed to come back on the 26th of September 2019. So it says the 7 suspects were accompanied to the Kaneshi District Court with heavily armed personnel from the Criminal and Investigation Department of the Police Service. 3 of the 7 were arrested the same day of the killing, while the key suspect, Eric Kojojua, was arrested over the weekend at Atimpoku. He was on his way to the Volta region. It is unclear, however, when the remaining suspects were picked up. So, Counsel, I'll start with you, or Martin, I'll start with you here on the story of these 7 men who killed 2 policemen brutally.
Yeah, okay, that's it. I mean, once again, we will just have no option but to condemn that dastardly act. I mean, that is un-Ghanaian. It's usually not common in our society for citizens to jump on and maim and kill policemen. Very, very, very bad, and we must condemn it in the strongest terms that we can. Yes, now, well, and it's also good that at least we have a rule of law, so they've set in place the necessary processes to investigate and prosecute. So what you find is that the first appearance in court, police are not done with investigations, but it's because under the Constitution, it's mandatory under Article 14 that if you arrest a person, then you must either grant him bail or present him before a court of law within 48 hours. So though we've seen that they have appeared in court, the trial is way, 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 way far from starting.
Wow.
It's a long process. Yes, yes. Remember the JB Duncan killer's case. Remember the Major Mama. Major Mama, that one they've even done well because they've started and they are making progress.
What slows down the process?
A number of factors. Sometimes the availability of evidence. If gathering the evidence is slow, let's say if the evidence is not readily available and they have to dig deep, then it slows it. And then other times it's about the mental well-being of the accused person. Remember the JB Duncan killers, at a point they had to go and do psychiatric evaluation. Yes, because before you put somebody on trial, the court must be sure that the person is mentally sound. Okay, compos mentis. Otherwise, no, it will be a nullity. You remember in the time of President Mahama, there was this man who had a gun in his pocket. Yeah, you see, he was convicted, but it was quashed because apparently, yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's a long way of generally. So this one, we call it trial by indictment. Generally, it takes long. If they're able to even start a trial in 7 or 8 months' time, that would be really quick. Yeah,
wow.
8 months.
But how will the family get justice? And we know that some of them are even asking for capital punishment.
Yes, it's in the books already. Yes, yesterday I heard them on your sister's station. The capital punishment is already on the books. It's just that since about 1992, we've stopped implementing it. So what will happen is that in the event that the suspects are charged properly and become accused persons and they go through the trial and are convicted, in our law books, when the jury, and this one, it's not the judge who convicts them, it's jury. They usually will select this ordinary men and women who are impaneled as a jury. So they listen to all the evidence and they decide. And the judge is generally bound. So I don't want to become a law lecturer. So let's just make it very simple. That generally the judge is bound. So let's say the evidence. If at the beginning, if the judge thinks that this case is so bad, there's no evidence, there's a stage where he has power to stop the trial and not let it continue. But once it continues to the end of the trial proper, then in that case, the power belongs to the jury. They would decide whether this, the whole of this trial that we've had, whether this accused person is guilty or not guilty. You see, that's what I wanted to clarify. So that's why I say generally it's the jury that decide. If the judge thinks it shouldn't be, there is a stage where he has power to stop the trial. But once it proceeds beyond that stage, the power belongs to the jury. Of course, there's also power in the Attorney General at any stage at all to also stop the trial. You remember the Gregory Afuku case when everything was done, they were just about to have the jury retire and the state came. Exactly, you know it right. Yes, so that is it. So all these things, all I'm saying, the point we're developing was that if the jury say the person is guilty, then the judge has to pronounce the death sentence. Yes, under our law, that is it. A few years ago, an accused person tried to challenge that law, but the Supreme Court looked at it, the case of Dexter Johnson versus the Republic, they looked at it and said no, for them, they can't cancel the death penalty from the law books. That's work for Parliament and the executive. You say, yeah, so in terms of, so the main point we're advancing was that the family is asking for the death penalty. I'm saying, yes, it's in the statute books. But after the person has been convicted, as to, so it leaves the hands of the judiciary and now moves to the executive again. The police are part of the executive. You bring the case to the judiciary, a separate arm of government. When they finish, they return, when they say the person is guilty, he's handed over to the prisons. The prisons work under the executive. And it's within the president's prerogative to say, okay, carry out the death sentence or don't. But generally, we've moved on. We've moved on. Examples from other societies have shown that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, will only make the world go blind. You see it. So, yeah, it's very painful. I mean, I can understand. When you lose a loved one, you feel it. So it's very, very painful. I empathize with the family. But at this stage of our development, it appears we are headed towards abolition of the death penalty. Okay. You see it? Yes. So, okay.
So Duncan, let me come to you on this one.
Dziffa.
Where did we get to a point where people think they can actually kill policemen in broad daylight? Is it an issue of us not resourcing our policemen enough, so criminals think that they can do anything and nothing will happen to them? Or we need to reevaluate our citizenry?
Dziffa, let me say good morning once again. And of course, I share in the views of the respected lawyer. It is
accolades.
not.
But you should accept your accolade. Just take it.
But a very respected lawyer and a diligent gentleman that I have known. You see, I condemn in no uncertain measure that barbaric act. And I think that it would have been only fair if the justice system would be a bit expeditious so that the bereaved families could at least see some justice to have been done. But like he said, in the rule of law, sometimes you can't bend the rules to favor certain things because you need things done expeditiously. So Ghanaians would have to be a little patient and allow the system to work to its finality. While saying this, I would also want to hasten to add that the knee-jerk reaction from the police command, I do not subscribe to it.
Okay, how so?
That because there's an incident, an unfortunate one, of course, a condemnable one, of course, we're now going to arm every police person on our streets, on our roads, also with ammunitions, just to carry out their duties. I think that it was for a specific reason that the police MTTD were left unarmed, ammunition in their day-to-day engagements with, the driving public. And so if we are now just in a haste to arm every single one of them, I would not look at the cost per se, but then I would look at whether every police officer on the street is emotionally matured or emotionally as intelligent as to distinguish when to fall on your arm and when not to fall on. I would expect that maybe they would arm a certain battalion, as you say in the military. If they have a patrol vehicle, maybe they have 1 or 2 arms in there. But to say you are giving every individual ammunition, I know for a fact that a lot of the policemen are well behaved, but some are equally badly mannered. Badly mannered. And so if it becomes a wholesale approach where everybody now carries ammunition, Dziffa, I do not think that the excesses against the civilian population will be something that we would all be happy about in a few months to come. I say this advisedly. I know for a fact that a lot of the senior policemen who even carry ammunitions, you would hardly see those ammunitions on them. They have a way of keeping them very far. And then again, you would also have other officers who probably will be trigger happy if you are not lucky. And so you cannot endanger every civilian on our streets simply because something has gone wrong. Let's deal with the specific situation or incident as the law allows us to. Going back to now say that there should be AK-47 on our streets, I do not think that most Ghanaians are even comfortable with the sight of guns. And the moment you do that, you are probably moving towards a police state. We are not under some emergency laws where there's a curfew and you are not supposed to go out. Not every Ghanaian will be very comfortable to, I want to go out to get something. And then all I see are guns being brandished left and right. That would be a very difficult thing for a lot of us to, live with. So we would caution or advise the police command to hasten slowly, assess the situation. If it is a critical community where, there are some violent-prone areas where you probably might need. But there are a lot of places in Ghana where people are generally law-abiding. Pass here, they pass here, don't do this. So if you are going to do case-by-case study to determine where you would need ammunitions and all of that, I think that would suffice. But to say the wholesale situation, everybody should just get a gun and if people misbehave, use the gun as you deem. I have seen videos of police excesses. Sometimes they get away with it. I have seen videos where lawful arrests or whatsoever the terminology would be, people not even resisting are brutalized. I have on an occasion where the driver and his mate, fighting the policeman in a video that went viral. If we had not asked questions around it, we were just going to condemn the driver and his mate, on the face of it. But if you go a little in there, it seemed as though the police actually instigated or initiated the violence. He had started hitting and all that. And so there are times that the police also go a little too far in enforcing law and order. And I think that we should speak against those things equally. Because if there's a lawful arrest, I'm sure a lawyer here would be able to tell the processes. Sometimes you tell the person what crime you are even arresting him for and what rights there are to his arrest. If he has a right to a lawyer, but most times they also are on the offensive. Sometimes brutally assaulting people twice their age. People who may probably be even innocent before the law. But if you go ahead and abuse them, you cause damage to some of these persons. I'm yet to come across people getting compensation for police brutalities in our country. I'm yet to. I don't know if they're...
Well, was it Asawase where the young men were killed?
No, it's low though, 250,000 per head. But before then, there are a lot of court cases. But generally, the figures have always been low. Maybe a reflection of our economy.
Exactly. But that's still not an excuse, is it?
So where they go, beyond their remit. the civilian should have a certain, recourse.
So do you agree with those who say we should instead focus on training our policemen on what to do and what not to do, as opposed to arming them?
You see, I
have
share
cameras on them.
I share in the opinion that the cameras would work.
Okay.
Because if there are body cameras and senior wants to arrest me, whatever behavior I put up would be evidenced by the recording, right? If I also get as violent as to do anything, senior can restrain himself, knowing very well that there's enough
evidence against them.
If you arm the police against your people and you are not careful, there will be a few of them who probably, in instances where some of them have even given these arms to armed robbers, where they have partaken in armed robbery, cases. You are just going to probably escalate the insecurity situation or otherwise. So we should tread a bit more cautiously. I would go for the security cameras any day. Okay. If you can have one for every police officer, that would also force them to at least behave appropriately, because he knows that whatever he says, whatever he does, is on tape for himself. And so, yes, he could, but we should tread cautiously with this gun trigger happiness.
But Martin, in a span of just 1 month, we've had 5 policemen and women killed, right? Is that an outlier, or is it a norm? And should we prepare to at least prevent this from happening in future?
Definitely, it looks like an outlier, because for all these years, we haven't recorded such a high number of killings within a month. Not that I can remember for the past over 30 years, not in such incidents. So it definitely tells you that there's an outlier. But it's also a good clarion call then for us to take steps. So you can see that from yesterday, just apart from what my good friend Duncan has said, see the Peace Council has come to issue a statement that they are not in favor of arming all the police at once, the Bureau of Public Safety and other ordinary citizens. In actual fact, even last Saturday, I was monitoring this program, Key Points, on TV3. A very senior police officer, I don't know whether it's Bright Udru or one of them, the previous one in charge of the MTTD, I don't know whether it was Stan or one of them, also said it, that it's unusual to arm MTTD police, all throughout. So it tells you that generally, our society is cautioning against it. So the Interior Minister will have to, take a step back, reassess the situation, and then let's see. I'm sure we'll find middle ground. So middle grounds, already people are saying maybe we should give the tasers and then the pepper spray.
But how do you know that you're stopping someone for an unregistered car, whatever the case may be? There's absolutely no way you can predict this guy is going to start shooting at me. Even if you did slap him, you don't think the guy is going to kill you. How do you prepare someone for that?
Great. So what happens is that it's just like insurance. You see, usually you look at the history. So generally, we don't have that history of citizens just shooting police to death. You see, we don't have that history until this happened. And even this Kaswa one, the emotions are so high, but you're hearing the other side of the story. I don't want to repeat because we don't know whether it's true or not.
Yes, but an eyewitness said that the police slapped him, whatever the case may be.
You see, yes, exactly. So because of that, we just need, when emotions are high, it's normal to take some decisions to be seen to be strong and the rest. But this is also the time for us to do a very sober reflection. So just as we've heard from various segments of our society calling for us to step back and reassess, I think that is the way to go. We shouldn't just say we are about to arm all of them. No, let's step back. Let's reassess the situation. And especially as now the facts surrounding there's some very sad incidents are unraveling, we would then appreciate it. You see it. Yes, you remember some decades ago, Jericho Kuninja, that incident where the Ablikuma, yes, you see, the citizens did that. It was very bad, very illegal, but also you had their concerns also. So generally, it tells you that anytime you see that there is such a very bad incident against the police, then there is another side to it. So far, we don't have a case where somebody's just gone mad, and then so out of that, he just killed the policeman. There are usually some factors, you see. So perhaps as part of it, maybe they would check if an officer has personal issues of people in the community, then maybe he has to do disclosure so that he's withdrawn from that community. So when you know that you have a grudge against people in the community, then it means that it's no longer safe for you to go in there and keep arresting or trying, especially when they also feel they are right. You see, so some of those would help because, as I said, we don't want to go too much into the facts that are unraveling. We'll leave that to play out. But you see that now that that side is coming out, you see that we are beginning to re-examine us again.
But nothing justifies murder.
No, no, at all. That's what I'm saying. Not so. When we started, that's why I said we will condemn this to the hilt. No. Nothing justifies it. A murder, as you've rightly stated. We're just saying that if you look at it, you would see that in the event of murder, usually there are some strong undercurrents. So we should be interested in resolving the undercurrents rather than say, oh, okay, then give them arms. You say.
Okay, so we'll have to go for a quick break. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. And of course, we want to hear from you. So use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832 for us to hear what you're thinking. We will be right back. Welcome back. It's Breakfast Daily on CCTV. I still have with me Duncan Amoah, who's Executive Secretary of COPEC, and Martin Kpebu, who is the Executive Director of Human Rights and Governance Center. So we're going to move on to our second story, and it has to do with COPEC to government. They're saying reverse recent fuel price hike with immediate effect. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says here the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, is calling on the government to immediately reverse the recent increases in fuel prices in the country. There are reports that some of the leading oil marketing companies, as OMCs, across the country have increased pump prices effective September 1st, 2019. According to COPEC, pump prices have shot up from the previous 5.19 Ghana cedis per liter to 5.39 Ghana cedis for a liter, representing 3.7% jump in previous figures at the pump. So I will quote COPEC briefly, and then I'll allow Duncan Amoah, who's the Executive Secretary, to provide some clarity on this matter for us. They are saying, we are hereby demanding without delay an immediate reversal and withdrawal of these recent hikes in order to make way for further dialogue on the current fuel price build up, with the view to reversing the recent unfortunate trend of persistent increases, as it is serving no good aside putting lives and businesses across the country on the edge. So, Duncan, please help us understand this fuel price hike and the importance for government to bring it back down.
Well, Dziffa, let me say once again that we are getting to a point where knee-jerk reactions are becoming the order of the day. You ask whether policies are well thought through, the intended consequences, the unintended, are they critically examined before we push them out there for people to pay for? Or knee-jerk, government needs money. Okay, where do we get the money? If you go to the fuel, every day Ghanaians consume 11 million liters. If you put 10 pesos every day, I can get 1.1. At the end of the month, 33 million Ghana cedis backed, you know. For me, this approach is becoming quite too lazy. Too lazy to the extent that governments only think about what they gain from increasing fuel taxes. They don't think about what it does to the people, what it does to jobs, what it does to the economy. And I have said that if indeed you are only increasing taxes and increasing fuel prices, you are harming industries within your jurisdiction or country. Because if an industry is operating, let's say, 100 fleet and is consuming about 10,000 every day, right, to move goods and services around, and you end up doing 4%, what it means is that they would need to do about 400 cedis extra every day. Eventually, over time, their overheads are so expensive. So whatever little expansion they could have engaged in, they are forced not to expand because their overheads are quite expensive already. People may end up losing jobs because monies are now going to have to go into fuel. Again, individuals who also are on public sector payroll, right? Eventually we'll come back to the same government and say our wages are not enough to take us home. So have a negotiation and increase our salaries. Once you increase public sector wage, what is going to happen is that the amount of monies that you initially thought were going to be revenue to you is now taken back by the workforce. The unfortunate part is that you've raised general cost of living in the country, and those not on public sector wage, right? Those who provide essential services, those who sell food and all of that, you are also telling them to increase their cost of goods and services. And so everything goes up invariably when you touch fuel prices. But governments, unfortunately, only think of, oh, I'm going to rake in this, just like the luxury vehicle tax. Government had only calculated, oh, if there are 3 million vehicles, you do 25% of them being luxury. If we collect this every year, we are going to rake in XYZ amount, and that is revenue. They did not think of the correspondent hardship it was going to put on those who sell those cars, those who use those cars, those who need those cars as a matter of necessity. So they go in looking at numbers, benefits to the government. What they forget is that to every policy, someone is going to have to pay for it. Those going to have to pay for it, would it serve a useful purpose? Would the economy grow if I am taxing my way out of poverty? If I am taking everything from the people such that lawyer here probably, if he had a little disposable income, right, could have set up a little farm or a little, you know, community school somewhere. So but if you take all the income
as an alternative to you know, gaining some revenue?
Dziffa, the revenue debate is lost 4 years ago. And I don't think that government today, government in future, would have any right to ask Ghanaians for additional revenue if they cannot clip the sources of revenue already existing. You cannot let a cow out and go chase a mouse because you are hungry. You had a whole cow that could probably serve you well and serve you for a long time. You have 1.62 billion Ghana cedis going into private pockets because of this illegal or fuel smuggling activity. As we speak today, over 17% of all fuels sold in Ghana are illegal or, fuel smuggled. You go to the Tema Ashaiman enclave, there are tank yards, places where people bring these fuels, they share or distribute them across the country, filling stations buy them, you and I pay for them. At the end of the day, government gets zero from those fuels. And so if almost 20% of whatever Ghanaians are buying, the tax element on it goes into individual pockets, which amounts to about 1.6 billion annually. If you allow that to go, because those engaged in that trade are very powerful people, they're untouchables within society, people whose phone calls can release a truckload of fuel or 10 trucks of fuel to go and sell and bring money back to them. If you allow that revenue, 1.62 billion to go, and you come back asking Dziffa, asking lawyer Kpebu to pay more because you need 300 million, who are you joking with? Who are you fooling?
Okay.
Clearly, it cannot be sustained any further if government makes the argument we need revenue. Because the bigger basket of revenue, the bigger stream of revenue is allowed to go into private. We've raised this over the past 4 years. Every year we put our figures. MPA put their figures together. Chamber of Bulk Oil Distribution Company, CBOD, will put their figures together. We almost all the time are around the same figure. Last year, NPA is on record to have said that they believe we lost about $200 million. That's 1.1 billion. Those could be conservative figures, right? What we saw per the calculations we had in-house was about 1.62. CBOD has got their figures around the same figure. These monies are going into private pockets, and these private people are not lawyer Kpebu and Dziffa and myself. So these are highly placed people whose phone calls can release 10 truckloads of fuel.
So, Duncan, if policymakers are aware of this, why aren't they going after these people you've mentioned instead of taxing us?
Dziffa, if lawyer Kpebu was to be engaged, they would have arrested him tomorrow morning with the Nissan Navara pickup, 10 of them, right? But people often engaged in this are top-placed politicians. Like I indicated, their phone calls alone, even in instances where national security operatives, some of which I have on my phone here, and I can display, have gone to arrest these trucks, sometimes from Takrade all the way, come to park them at Independence Square. You get top, highly placed officials of government sometimes, highly placed persons in society, calling these persons to release those trucks.
But if
or
we're saying,
what will come after them, they wouldn't like
Duncan,
it.
if we're saying we want to fight corruption in this country and we want to place the nation first, shouldn't these same security agencies be empowered enough to call out these big guys?
Dziffa, don't forget that there are hierarchies and ranks as far as even the security operatives are concerned.
Exactly.
You take your order from a superior. If a superior calls you and say, abandon this, Dziffa, would you be as daring to say, I won't? They normally let go. And I have heard instances where operatives even within NPA who had gone after this illegal fuel over the period, they are tired now. If you tell them there's an illegal operation here, they will tell you, should carry on. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you go and arrest them, a certain top shot comes in to say, let it go.
So what's the way forward? Because then it seems like we're all going to keep paying for these taxes, Dziffa, even though we can't afford to.
We cannot continue paying. The same way we spoke against the luxury vehicle levy. This new add-on tax is completely nuisance, needless, avoidable, insensitive, ill-timed, and we do not think that the government should be brave or proud that I'm only adding on taxes to the already very high incidence of fuel prices in Ghana. We are selling one of the highest in the sub-region. Yeah. Initially, when fuel prices were lower, we said people were smuggling fuel from Ghana to our neighboring countries, and so we were losing. Now your prices are so high, yet you are not even looking at reducing some of the useless taxes we have on the price build. You are rather adding on with the excuse you need revenue, when revenue 1.6, 4 years running, Dziffa, every single year we put these things out. We discussed, we've had a couple of meetings with people in certain top-level government positions, but their hands are tied to their backs because those engaged in such needless illegal, fuel smuggling, some of them are a bit higher.
Okay, so let me bring in Martin here. Yeah. So COPEC is calling for the government to decrease it, but then Duncan is also admitting that there are people within the sector who are profiting off of us as Ghanaians, and even that money alone should be enough if we are able to go after them and stop their operations. What is the way forward for you?
Yeah. So, meaning that there should be a special task force to clamp down on these illegal operators. Because as he rightly said, at least for the past 2 years, I followed the SIBO report. I remember last year I had to ask Duncan for a copy. I couldn't believe it that the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, were claiming that figure, okay? So over 1 billion cedis being lost to illegal operators. That is something we should do everything we can about. Because it just means that we are playing the ostrich, kind of pretend that, everything is well, and some people are making millions of cedis. In fact, that's not the way to go. But in the meantime also, the other side of it that usually is difficult to say, but which we must say is that you see that, you say that they are not looking at the other side. But over the years, I think from the recesses of my mind, I can remember that generally they choose to, all governments, both across the political divides, they generally do this because that's placing the taxes on fuel because that's easier to collect. Yeah. It's easier to collect. As we sit here, the GRA has said that about 6 million of us work. About 6 million work. And yet only about 1.5 million pay direct taxes. That's the income tax. Yeah. So the remaining 4.5 million work every month, earn their income, and packet everything. Certainly, this doesn't bode well for the economy. So whenever there is a fuel increment, my mind straight away goes to this 4.5 million of our people who are working and yet don't pay income tax. So at least this morning, a natural fact, because you guys have the power of the media, the microphone, maybe you should be interested in interviewing the GRA boss. What are they doing about the remaining 4.5 million people who are not paying income taxes? You say, they are working. The system has them that they are working, yet they are not paying. You say it. And so for me, I'm sure if these people were paying, perhaps that's paying their income taxes, perhaps we wouldn't need to increase the fuel the way we do.
But is taxing the only way to accumulate revenue as a country?
Oh, definitely
or should we be
not.
looking at more creative ways?
Yes, production, and even the constitution has it. It's interesting. This our constitution has so many things. When I came in, that was why I was looking at that the directive principles. You're talking about Article 36, saying that they
followed them.
Yeah, so that's what government generally, all the governments when they come, they do. They say create opportunities for the people to be able to, get jobs. And
why is it so difficult to implement?
Look at one of them. It says that 36.2 says that the state, so 32.2 says the state shall, in particular, take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include, I'm going to be, affording ample opportunity for individual initiative and creativity in economic activities and fostering an enabling environment for a pronounced role of the private sector in the economy. You say, goes on and on. There's about production and productivity. So by and large, that's what all the governments try to do. Over these years, nobody comes to office to just sleep. So I think that the way forward, as I've said, when it comes to this smuggling, to the extent that there are not many, I feel very strong about it that we can do something, because these big shots are not many. That's why I said last year, when I heard the news, then I asked for a copy of the report. I wanted to be sure that this smuggling they are talking about is really that
If
huge.
there are not many, why are we so intimidated by them?
Exactly, that's it. So for me, it looks like
they're very powerful people.
But they can be more powerful than the executive, can they?
Well, if they are part of the executive, what do you do?
So for me, I think that because those powerful people in charge of this smuggling are very few, look, if you tax the BNI and the national security, they can...
Senior lawyer, I can put on record, they know.
Yes, they do. So what I mean is I want to clamp it. We want to, just like the way you remember a few months ago, the IOS West Commission came out and confirmed that, look, just like the way BNI was engaged in illegality, operating cells, operating like a police force when it has no power. You see that we are hoping that, especially with the Ajafo case, that will be the end. They will no longer operate those illegal cells and all that. So in the same way, Duncan, maybe we'll have to sponsor so that you buy this is what a page in the graphic consistently for the next 2 weeks.
Keep coming.
And come tomorrow. Go. Maybe do a demonstration because
and we'll all join.
Exactly, because that's easy money. Since these fuel smugglers, the big guys are very few. I think we can clamp down on them.
So your last thoughts on this?
You see, Dziffa, again, revenue. If you cannot account for what is already in the basket, no matter how much you pour in, you probably won't get the benefit thereof. If government could also be a lot more prudent with its fiscal, spending, you may not exactly need to go and tax 300 million cities extra. Unfortunately, much of what is already collected from even the 1.5 million workers, right? How is it expended? And so when we hear a lot of instances of corruption here, corruption there, and you come back to us asking for more money, the confidence that you would even apply these monies to what is of public good is not there in the first place. I think that if the public was as confident in our leadership to apply our monies to road construction, to infrastructure improvement and all of that, we would not hesitate at all paying. But unfortunately, the more you pay, the more the rot comes in the system. If the government wants more revenue, like Senior has said, let it go after the revenue leakage within the system. It would rake in a lot more than adding or padding taxes to the already few who are paying or paying through their noses.
Thank you very much. We'll take a look at our final story here. And it says, government to make Bahamas e-block boarding schools. That's coming from the Education Ministry, PRO. So I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. It says here, the Ministry of Education has indicated that it has already awarded contracts to make the e-blocks constructed under the Mahama administration boarding facilities to ease the accommodation challenges created by the implementation of the free SHS program. So the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry, Vincent Eko Asufa, says that this has become necessary because the e-blocks, the buildings are lying idle because students do not select them during their SHS placement. So pretty much all he's saying is students are not utilizing these E-blocks because they don't have a boarding building attached to it. So they're going to ensure that they have some sort of boarding facility with it so they can make good use of the E-blocks. And according to him, we've had about 25 E-blocks completed since 2017. So, Martin, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, okay. In support of what the ministry is doing, that's to say that to provide the boarding facilities. Yes, that's the right way to go because, you know, government is a continuum. Okay?
But some people are also saying that because it's free, shouldn't we just have it as a day facility so that you don't have all this burden of students are here all day long, how you catering for them and the likes?
Yeah, but here is the case. They are on the ground. You and I are not. So it looks like we have to defer to the ministry. What they're saying is that because these blocks don't have boarding facilities, students are not interested, meaning that they are moving to all the schools that have boarding facilities. As we were reading it, I was just imagining, I said, okay, I went to secondary school with a boarding facility. So naturally, I'm sure, you know, you want to get out of the house, you want to be away from home for some time. You see, the freedom and all that. So I can imagine why students don't want the day facilities because they have to return home. So, yeah, you know, the education ministry earlier, was it last year, starting from last year, they did some financial arrangement where Get Fund had to borrow over $1 billion cedis to do things like this. So let's go for it. Look, for me, when it comes to this free SHS thing, I'm all for it because if I look, apart from our constitution saying that we should make sure that everybody is afforded an opportunity, it's the best for us. Look, because as we move up, if we don't ensure that those on the ground, or that's those down the ladder come up with us, we are not safe. You can buy all the cars and all that. They will meet you in traffic and take the cars. Yes. Okay, so it's for our own collective security that we are giving free SHS. If somebody thinks, oh, no, it's a political gimmick, yes, I want to stay out of the politics. Me, what I understand is that if we ensure that all these children have access to education, we are thereby ensuring our own security. Because don't forget, unemployment is a national security issue. When it gets a certain level, there's a threshold. When it moves beyond that threshold, oh, you won't have a safe state. Don't forget the Arab Spring, where people, you saw what happened. All those governments came down like a pile of cards. Who would have thought that Hosni Mubarak would fall? You see, and look at Tunisia, all of them, you see. So
but they were oppressed for a very long time. That's different from a population that isn't educated.
Oh, no, they are very related. You see, sometimes
what's the correlation?
This is it. You see, you know, you and I, because we drive in our cars to work and the rest, it's true that, look, we don't understand our society that way, especially those at the bottom. Don't you see from time to time the cover pages of the newspapers, somebody is killed over 1 cedi, somebody is killed over 2 cedis. Yes, the guys on the streets, you talk to them, they are bitter, Yeah, they are bitter. Look, yesterday a client came into my office. I know the story he told me. It was so harrowing. He was talking about an old lady in Wawasua near Sunyai. She needed 2 cedis to travel to Sunyai to undertake cataract operation. She didn't have it. 2 cedis. No. So in and out is 4 cedis. The old man was just like, he was so sad. And myself, I said, wow. Mr. Ibu, are you sure? Is this a story I can tell anyone? He said, yes. And he said he was broken. The old lady needed 2 cedis to go to Sunyai to go do a cataract operation because she has the National Health Insurance card. So all she needed was the transport in and out. So, and as I said, you even watch the newspapers. From time to time, you see Mr. X is killed over 1 Ghana, they put $4. So, and because we sit in cars, we're in suits and the rest, a lot of the time we forget the downtrodden. My point is that, look, let's all give the free SHS the best support we can because it's for our own security. And once again, look, our forebears stated it expressly in our constitution. Is there expressed that the best form of democracy is the one that assures basic necessities of life for its people as a fundamental duty. Let me read it. So once again, 36(2)(e), it says the government, so the state shall in particular take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy, blah, blah. Then E, the recognition that the most secure democracy is the one that assures the basic necessities of life for its people as a fundamental duty. You say, yeah.
Okay.
So please, let's not play with it. Let's
Thank
support the free SHS.
Duncan.
Dziffa, let them go to the day and the boarding schools, whichever is available. But at the end of the day, I am more interested in the quality of training we give to these young ones. Are we still training them about things that they cannot relate to in 21st century, or we are giving them the kind of training that makes them well equipped to be able to fit in, even if they terminated education after the secondary school? I think that whatever be the instance, a lot more focus, a lot more resources be provided to teaching and learning, so that be it a day school or be it a boarding school, these students or pupils might be able to benefit from the little resources that we are pumping in there. I don't have much to say. I share in the senior lawyer's sentiments.
Thank you very much. And we've received some comments from you guys, so I'll read them briefly. Farouk from Tama says, it is refreshing to hear the suspects have been remanded. I pray the case is dealt with as soon as possible. Killing of innocent souls should not be encouraged at all. Our police force should also know carrying sidearms comes with massive responsibilities. Our police must start serving with integrity. Suleiman from Baku says, we only talk when the police are killed, but what about when the police kill citizens? I think that's a very good question there. AU Farouk from Tamale says, for me, it is not about arming the police, but to reform the entire police service. The requisite training method must be used. Thank you guys so much. We've received some more messages, but we have unfortunately run out of time. I was joined by lawyer Martin Kpebu, who is the Executive Director of the Human Rights and Governance Center. Thank you so much for being with us. And Duncan Amoah, who's the Executive Secretary of COPEC, and our usual Tuesday guest. Thank you.
In fact, I'm happy today. Thank you, Dziffa.
Why are you happy today?
You got my name and
I literally got it wrong once.
And then you got
one time out of 10 times.
You got Kpebu also here. Thank you.
Listen, give me some credit, Duncan. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Another celebration of the Kpebu Ojura Festival is here again. Don't miss out on Ojura Unlimited 2019 Okwepimantiase from 16th to 22nd of September for an experience of original traditions, local arts, culture, sports, entertainment, and many more. Ojura Festival, the celebrations begin now.
Now it's about the grand finale
at the Fantasy Dome
on 7th of September.
You don't have to miss
at 6 p.m.
Charlie, let's shake the place. Come in your numbers.
Fire, fire, fire on that day.
And I need to see you at the finals.
Hi everyone, it's Arabi on the beats, Charlie.
This is your boy Collect Boyson, the super entertainer.
Hi everyone.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube,
for exclusive breakfast daily content and other City TV programs.
like, comment, and share with your friends.